going to have candid conversations about why students chose teaching and choose teaching. Why do they choose teaching? Why do they choose other educational careers? And dive into talking to some of our Ed Rising PDK members who are currently in college and choosing those careers. So we're super excited to have you with us today as well. And we just want to dive into talking a little bit about Ed Rising, who we are, what we are. We have a long history of supporting education. We've gone through years and years and years of supporting future educators. And this year marks our 10-year anniversary of rebranding as Educators Rising. So we're very excited about this 10-year anniversary mark. It seems like just yesterday I was getting an email saying, we're the new Educators Rising. And I was like, what? Who is this? And I had to dive in and be part of it. So I'm so excited to be at the national office now celebrating our 10-year milestone with that. In addition, I just want to share a map real quick. Anything that's bolded in dark blue is an Educators Rising state affiliate of ours. As you can see, it's almost the whole entire country, so that's great news. We have 38 state affiliates, and we have a presence in all 50 states. So if your state is not lit up on our map, we do have a presence in your state, but you're not an official state affiliate. So feel free to contact us at community@educatorsrising.org if you would like to become an official state affiliate, as that looks different in every state. For those of you who don't know about us, we are a grow your own program for students in middle and high schools to help stem the teacher shortage. And really it's an educator shortage, right? We have the need for parapros, we have the need for bus drivers, cafeteria workers, admins. So we're here to have a long-term solution for those shortages in your areas, as we know that there are so many underqualified educators, and we know that there are a ton of vacancies as well due to a bunch of different factors, including retiring and just being simply understaffed with the qualified teachers. So not only do we help to solve the educator shortage, but we also make sure that we have highly qualified educators in those positions. So that is what we try to do by working with those in your community. So we know that 60% of teachers work within 20 miles of where they went to high school. And that's super important because that tells us that people want to stay in their communities, right? And by growing your own in your own community, it helps to make sure that they stay in their communities after college and come back and work for you. We have a lot of presence by the numbers at Rising. I just love the fact that we have over 25,000 students now and over 1,400 chapters. Our national conference last year was our highest attended ever, and I highly suggest to anybody in the audience who hasn't come to our national conference to come and check that out, because it is amazing and outstanding, and there's so much synergy and excitement. And when you see all of these students and their teachers taking their summer vacations and their summer breaks to pour all the work they've done throughout the entire year into this conference and into presenting, it's just phenomenal. So I just want to dive into a little bit about how it starts. You can start with just a chapter. Then you implement the 5 C's, which are the chapters, curriculum, competition, conference, and then community, and building that collaborative pipeline. And the focus of our webinar today is having the candid conversations with those who are actually in the field. So we do have 3 panelists. Andrew is having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we may see him joining us a little bit later, but right now, I'm here to introduce to you our 2 of our 3 panelists. First of all, we have Mary Kate from Ohio, and we have Kelvin from New Hampshire, who is currently at American University, and Mary Kate is at Capital University. So I want to, first of all, welcome them to our webinar for this candid conversation about becoming an educator, and give them just a moment to talk a little bit about themselves. We'll start off with Mary Kate, and then we'll hop over to Kelvin.
Hi, my name is Mary Kate Gebhardt. I'm a 3rd year at Capital University. I'm majoring currently in intervention specialist and primary education, so I'm a double major. And this is my 6th year in Educators Rising, which is very cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Calvin?
Hi, my name is Calvin Plant. I am a freshman at American University, double majoring in secondary education and history, and I have a minor in theater. And this is going to be my fifth year in Educators Rising.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's just dive into the first question. We ready? Let's talk about a little bit about how you got started initially in Educators Rising through your high school, tell me a little bit about how that looked for you.
I can go first. So my high school offered what they call a technical satellite program. So it was located at my high school, but it was technically through our technical schools, or a lot of people call them like trade schools. And part of our curriculum is that we have to participate in Educators Rising, like compete. So that's when I first heard about Educators Rising, just really.
So you heard about it through a technical school center, and then they had Educators Rising as the CTSO, Career and Technical Student component that goes along with your education courses, and they required you to be part of a CTSO, which for a lot of states that is how it works, right? You have a CTE program, you must have a CTSO that aligns along with that. So that's one way that we can hear about Ed Rising and get Ed Rising into our communities. Calvin, how did that look for you?
So for me, I was a cross country runner, and my season got canceled halfway through the season. And I was looking for something to do because I kind of lost like how I felt like I belonged at school. So I looked at a bunch of different clubs, and the only club that responded to me emailing them was Educators Rising. And as soon as I showed up to that first meeting, the two co-presidents at the time were super nice, and they welcomed me with open arms, and I kind of fell in love since.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I hope that's how all of our students feel when they reach out to us and then they join, especially when we connect our students with our student leaders like you and Mary Kate. I think from what I hear back from students is how much they love going to national conference and like they think that you guys are superstars. So, I don't get to picture with the national officers, the national ambassadors. So I thank you for your student leadership. And I want to talk just a little bit about your journey. I know we have more questions, but how you got started in Ed Rising and then, because you could just be a member, right? And not just a member, but you get so many member benefits. But there are other levels of leadership too, right? I want you to each talk about your journeys in your student leadership roles here at Ed Rising. Mary Kate?
So how it all started is, again, I am very outgoing. So when I first like had to compete and stuff, it was COVID time, so it looked a lot different for our state competitions. So I did public speaking and I placed third. So I was like, this is great. I can't wait. I'm gonna do the same thing next year. So the next year I decided to do that, but also I was like, you know what? I want to be a state officer. So I thought that was something that personally for me, I was like, no one's gonna vote for me, but this is just cool to like just try and just put myself out there. I'm really grateful I did because it's actually why I chose my university. We host our state conference here every year. So I always feel like I'm with my Ed Rising family and I see them constantly. And then my senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for that national officer. And so I was lucky enough, I got to be a national officer. And then I was reached out by Robin, who was part of Educators Rising, and hired on as a member. So I currently work with the membership team.
So not only did you become a student leader, but then that opened up another door for employment for you so that you can work while you're going to college. Awesome. I love it. Kelvin, can you tell us a little bit about your Ed Rising journey and your student leadership?
Yeah, definitely. In a very similar vein is the chapter leadership. Is I ran for president my sophomore year as kind of I don't think anyone's going to vote for me, but I wanted to see what happened. And after seeing that like how much they cared for me, I realized that there's a lot of change that I could affect with Educators Rising. So the following year, sorry, no, during my senior year, I applied to be a national ambassador of Educators Rising. And I've gotten to see a lot of amazing opportunities and work with a lot of amazing people through that. And that has just been such an like a hugely enriching experience.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And so just to summarize for our audience, there are different levels of student leadership, right? There are different levels. You can be a chapter officer, you can be a state officer, you can be a national officer, a national ambassador. So when you're looking at leadership and how that propels you, and just using Mary Kate and Calvin as examples, right? Look how far they've come and they've progressed and they've held office and they keep going up and going up. And what I love about what Mary Kate says is tie it back into your Ed Rising community, your Ed Rising family. Find your people, especially in college, because there are oftentimes you don't see an education course for a couple of semesters right away, and you want to find your Ed people. Join the collegiate chapter at your school. Find your education chapters so that you can stay connected to the people who care about the same things that you care about, and you can find your people. So thank you both for talking about those multiple different leadership opportunities. We know that 50% of students intend to pursue teaching through credentials, teaching credentials through a college. That's the most often used path, right? We go to a four-year institution, we get our teaching credentials, we then get certified, and then we apply for a job, right? So that's typically how it's done. Although there are other means of getting certified and getting in to a teaching cert program or getting credentialed, right? But since we know the majority of people go through a four-year traditional pathway to get cert, let's talk about your high school to college transition. So Mary Kate already kind of alluded that she knew where she was going to go because she'd been on campus, she'd seen it. And I hear a lot of kids that go on collegiate tours and campus visits, they fall in love with the campus, or they go to an event that Ed Rising is hosting at a collegiate campus and fall in love with it. But what prepared you for that transition? What maybe surprised you? What should people in the audience be aware of as they go from their Ed Rising chapter into college and into those courses? Calvin, do you want to start off this time, and then we'll go over to Mary Kate?
I would love to.
Thank you.
My college transition was really amazing. Right out of the gate, I joined the chapter at my school, and the people I met there, it was like an immediate bond with them because we were all there. We all were passionate about education, and it was really an amazing thing. And then I would go into my classes and I would see those people, and it was really just an outstanding experience of being able to have these people and friends, because especially when I went to college, is I went there and I had no one that I knew. So being able to join Educators Rising and immediately have this group of people that I immediately connected with was amazing.
Thank you. So it's about sense of community, right? Like kind of what I alluded to in the last slide when we were talking about finding your people, right? Finding that. Is there anything that surprised you about college, Kelvin, that you want to share with the audience? Or were you all prepared because your high school did such a good job?
I would say I was mostly prepared. I think the thing that I was prepared for the least, though, was just how passionate a lot of my professors are about what they do. They are there because they are experts in their field, and it's really amazing to like the kind of passion and expertise that they have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love to hear that. I also teach adjunct at a couple of colleges here in Arizona, and I love my education students are just passionate all the time, passionate, just, being on time or being communicative. Like they're always letting me know like if something's going on. And I just love that about educators. I love that. So thank you for sharing, Kelvin. Mary Kate, anything, your transition from high school to college, what prepared you or anything that surprised you?
So really for me, the hardest part about the whole transition, so I knew already where I wanted to go. But what helped me personally was because I was a state officer, we met on like at this campus once a month. I got to really be close with one of the professors here who actually was dean of the education here. So he made it a point that like I always have like a safe spot, especially when it comes to like being an education major, which oftentimes is hard for people. But something I really wasn't prepared for is because at least at my technical school, we got credits for education classes, so I didn't have to take certain ones. But all my peers were taking those classes. So my first semester, I wasn't taking any ed courses. So I feel like I was really behind. But truly what helped was I was also a national officer at the time. So I was still getting, I don't say like my education fixed, but like I still was being able to like talk about education with the officers, talking to like Jose and just like relating of like any frustrations I have or clarifications. So it was really nice.
Yeah, so you were still connected, even though you were, and in a way you say like you felt behind, but in essence you were ahead, right? Because you already had those credits. But to go back to the point, still being in a community and having that sense of belonging is so important when you go to college. I want to be 100% transparent with both of you in my college experience and ask, did either of you have trouble learning how to study, or the amount of I just want to be transparent that when I got to college, my high school prepared me so well, I didn't know how to study because I had just done it and I had my homework done and I was so organized. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, wow, I have no idea how to take true notes. I have no idea what I'm really listening for. Did either of you experience that, or was it just me?
My first class on campus was ethics, and he was a brand new professor on campus, and that was the first test I've ever failed in my life, like completely like failed. And what really was hard was on his syllabus, everything is just tests, and I'm not a test taker. And so like his thing was just this giant textbook that you had to read. And like I tried every single way I could of like taking notes. Like I would take notes about the reading, I'd watch YouTube videos, I would talk to the professor. And really what helped me at least was talking to my professor. It probably helps that we're such a small private university where like there's maybe 20 people max in my class. So at least for me, that's what helped me study the most. Cause like I would show him my notes and he's like, okay, these are the key details that you just need to look at. But I still don't even know how to take proper notes, if that helps. And I'm still just trying to figure it out because every class is different and every professor is different.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you said that because I also felt like lost, but I didn't learn, like you reaching out to the professor is the exact advice I would give, but it took me like a year to be like, not scared to go and ask them because I was so fearful of asking for help because I'd never needed it before. So I just want to put out there to our audience, if you're a high school student or you're a college student who is struggling because there's that transition, right? Go talk to there is not one professor, and speaking as a professor, there is not one of us that if you came to us genuinely confused or lost, that we would not help you. So please reach out before it's too late. Because I waited like a year and like Mary, I failed. Like I'd never had an F on a test before. So to get those results back, it made me fall back a little and go, oh my gosh. And then I just shut down. Not the right way to do it, right? Like reach out for help. Don't shut down. Get the help you need so you don't fall behind. Because what I'll tell you is after my second year, when you go to apply to be in the College of Ed to become the teacher, when you have those failed classes, they won't accept you into the College of Ed. So I want to prepare everybody now that your first 2 years are so important so that you can get into the College of Ed and get that cert. So I just want to preface that because I struggled so much my first year in college because I too, like Mary Kate, had taken the extra courses, had these college credits. I thought I knew what I was doing. I did not. So just reach out and ask for help. All right. Sorry, that was my soapbox for the day, but I just want to make sure everybody knows it's not that it's hard, it's that we don't know how to ask for help sometimes. So just ask for help. All right, we're going to talk about the reasons why you chose to become a teacher. Tell me, and again, my biggest one is always selfishly the altruism, right? Like the altruistic, it makes me feel good. That's selfish, right? But there's other reasons. So Calvin is having some technical issues and is coming in and out. But Mary Kate, let's you and I talk about the reasons why you chose to become a teacher.
There's several reasons why, but the one I don't talk about as often is in second grade. I I've always grown up with a single mom, and it was my mom and my sister and I. That's just all I lived with. And so I struggled a lot being like the baby to have the separation anxiety, except at the time, like I didn't know, but like I would get dropped off at school and I would have a panic attack and I would get sent to the nurse's office and go home. That's just how it was. And I was like that for about 2 weeks. And it really was my second grade teacher that I like to say, like, she was my hero for my hero speech because she recognized what was happening. And thankfully, that was my sister's previous teacher. So we had a good relationship with her. And like, she just like told my mom, was like, I think this is what's going on. Like, are you comfortable with like certain modifications to the courses, or like, maybe, her seeing the counselor and like certain things like that. But she just was such a good teacher at the fact of like being such a young age to know those modifications right then and there, which is actually perfect because now she's a counselor. But that's one of the main reasons why I became a teacher, was to help students that maybe are struggling or just need that extra support and just to adapt their education.
I love that. Thank you. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of kids, maybe they don't realize that at the time. Like you said, I'm in second grade. I didn't really realize, but the teacher recognized that. And you can be that for someone else in the future. So I love that. Also, you get some good time off, right? Like there's there's other, like, there's a whole list of reasons why, but I think for our audience to hear, like, first you get some time off, you get holidays, you get breaks, you get summer. People say the pay isn't great, but I can say there's definitely areas of the country where the pay is phenomenal. And the reason why my best friend won't move out here is because she'll never get the wages out here in Arizona that she'll get in DC. So there are areas where the cost of living is higher, you're going to get paid more. So I want everybody to keep that in mind. It's not always about the money, because we also get great benefits of insurance and retirement and things of that nature, which a lot of college kids aren't thinking about at that age. But when you get to be my age, you're like, oh yeah, retirement, like that's important, right? So thinking about those kinds of things. And then the other thing I want to talk to is because, there's even the PDK poll said that parents don't want their kids to become teachers, like so depressing. So Mary Kate, let's talk a little bit about the negative talk that surrounds education. We hear all of these negative things. How do you approach that? How do you approach the negativity? How do you, when people say, oh, why would you want to do that? Because we both know it's the most noble profession and there's nothing else that's going to make us happy except teaching. But how do you talk to people about their negative perceptions on education and teaching?
It's a really good question. Um, I feel like oftentimes a lot of it is just like, a good example right now is like my friends and I were comparing just like our homework and stuff. And the most common thing I get is like, oh, well, you just do crafts. Oh, you just grade papers. That's your future. And I'm like, yes, that is part of education, but there's a lot that goes into it. And that's something I feel like is just a very big misconception of just how much it goes in order to become a teacher. Like right now I'm feeling like the pressure of like licensure exams. And so like telling people, well, I actually have to pay money to take this exam and I've all this work to study and all these things. So like it's a lot of, whenever I hear it, I kind of just break it down for them, not to be the person that call them out, but just tell them like there's a lot more that goes into it.
You're educating them.
I do educate them, in fact.
You're literally educating them on the misconceptions and the misperceptions, right? Like, I had someone say to me, probably my fourth year of teaching, Lisa, you can't save every kid. And I said, maybe I can't, but I'm going to try. Maybe I can't save, but I can at least reach every kid. And I can at least let them know that they have a safe place here with me for this 90-minute period. At least they know they have me. And then maybe I'm not saving them or saving the world, but that's not what I'm trying to do either. So I think people have this misconception, and we are superheroes, and that's great and that's wonderful, but it's about the little daily, the little standing outside your door at passing times and saying hi to kids, like it's just that friendly it's just making everybody feel welcome and that they're loved at the end of the day, right? So taking that negative talk and spinning it with a positive spin is all we can really do at the end of the day, because unless you've been a teacher, you really don't know what it all entails and the great feelings you get from it, right? Get such good feelings. So speaking of good feelings, let's give our last question. Let's throw out, what advice would you give to a young person who may be interested in pursuing a career in education? And not necessarily do they have to be a teacher. They may want to be an admin. They may want to be a para. What advice would you give to them, Mary Kate? It doesn't look like Calvin's hopped back yet, so we'll just go with you on this one.
Um, there's several things I'd probably say, but for the most part in education is just really talk to like your peers. That's one of the best pieces of advice that even my educators give me right now. Like, you're gonna have peers, you're gonna have coworkers, but kind of like how you mentioned, like you want a safe environment, safe classroom. But my first year teaching, I might not necessarily know how to do that right then and there. So like talking to just other coworkers or maybe teachers who have been there a while to see if there's anything that they recommend. I know my professors right now, they're like, come and invite us to your classroom in the future, and we'd love to help you and like get coffee and like catch up and like help in those aspects. So I think don't be afraid to ask for help, but also ask for advice when it comes to them, because they're more wiser and know what to look for or how to add certain things in the classroom.
That's really good advice, especially because you want to build your network. And I don't think that when I was in college, this was pressed upon enough in the terms of who you know in the future to be able to reach out to for, I need help with a manipulative, I need help with a tech tip, I need help with like, I need help. And you have this network of people that you've built in your college career that you can reach out to. So that's really good advice, is building your network, building your community of people who know more than you to then help build you. So thank you for sharing that aspect. For our audience members, I just wanted to throw out there that we do have a Q&A feature that you can ask any questions for Mary Kate if you want her to answer them live. You can throw those in the chat now. I'm just going to go over some of the parts of Ed Rising before we wrap this up, just to let the audience members know that it just takes one student, one teacher to become an official chapter. If you have a CTE approved pathway, we can be your CTSO for that. It costs $15 for our student dues, for our national dues, and you may have state dues that apply as well, but it's $15 for our national members to have to get all of the benefits. And the benefits would be your online portal. You can register, you can apply for PDK scholarships, you can apply for the national positions, the leadership positions that Mary Kate and Calvin referred to, just by being a national member. So think about if you do have a CTE program in your district, in your school, in your state, you get all of these benefits with your $15 national dues, including the scholarships. I'm telling people, apply for the scholarships. There's been a couple of years where no one applied, so we need to spend the money, apply for the scholarships. So thinking about that. And then the Honor Society too is something super cool that we have. So if you're interested in that, just by becoming a member and paying your $15 national dues. If you are a teacher or an administrator in our audience, I briefly want to highlight that if you are overseeing an education and training pathway and you don't have the resources that you need to teach the course, we have the Ed Rising curriculum that is aligned to national board standards. We also have our brand new student interactive guidebook that just came out this year, so students can take notes on that. And it is the number one thing that I get feedback on. People are so excited about how this student interactive guidebook is helping their students, along with saving the teacher some time with our assessments, where they can do selected response or short response. So the selected response will give the answers to the teachers, a little less grading time for you if you want to implement those. And then to round out our offerings, we are partnering with ETS to offer the Parapro assessment for our current curriculum sites. We'll expand it to other sites later, but first you can get it $20 cheaper and a practice test, and the session codes never expire if you want to get the Parapro certification, a credentialing assessment for your schools, you can reach out to me and I can get you set up with that as well. And you can have the test right in your own school. You can have your kids take it right in your own class. So that's super cool. I did it when I was a teacher and I had my kids sit for the Parapro assessment. I had them I counted it as their final exam. So they would all sit down, gave them their session keys. I exited the room, let someone else proctor it. And they were all parapros by the end of that session. So it worked out well. And then I got to hire them back into my classroom as parapros the next year while they went to the local community college. So if your district is short on parapros, let's get those kids that are already in the education courses, let's get them their parapro and get them back working for you, because we know that it can cost nearly $25,000 for turnover to get new teachers in. So we want to make sure we're getting them in as parapros and then getting them to full cert, or if they want to stay a parapro, absolutely can do that as well. Anything, we have questions? No questions that I can see. Martha just put the scholarship opportunities up in the chat, so thank you for that, Martha. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can always email our team at community@educatorsrising.org. You can visit our website at educatorsrising.org. You can reach out at info if you have membership, info@educatorsrising.org if you have membership issues or questions. If you think of anything after this webinar that you didn't get to ask today, again, feel free to email us at community@educatorsrising.org. And I would like to give a very, very special thank you to Kelvin, who had the technical issues, and to Mary Kate for being here with us today on this webinar, sharing all of your experiences with our audience. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you to everybody for coming, and have a great night.